On May 20, the head of Homeland Security testified before a congressional panel. She was being interviewed to see what she knew about the right habeas corpus. It just so happened that a former Boston lawyer by the name of Maggie Hassan, a Democrat from New Hampshire, was quite keen on what the definition of habeas corpus meant and how it affected free societies. Chris began to give a wrong definition, which seemed to be in support of some of the administrative actions of the current political administration in the White House. Hassan interrupted, saying, "That's incorrect." And she went on to say it's a legal principle that requires the government to provide public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. She also went on to say that habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. Lori Comstock, writing in USA Today on May 21, entitled her article, "Christie Botches Habeas Corpus." The question I have for all my listeners is this: is habeas corpus a legitimate right in a free society, and does it have a spiritual corollary in the dynamics of the church? Not long ago, Conrad was banned by the Michigan Conference. The problem was he was not there to defend, amend, apologize, or correct anything he might have said. The ban went out, creating a great degree of consternation. It led to some very traumatic actions in a large local church in the Michigan Conference. The Bible does address this. It says that every man seems right until you examine the other side. And of course, a very similar situation happened to Jesus in John chapter 7. He was preaching in the temple court, and the guards were sent to arrest him by the Sanhedrin. It was predetermined that what he was saying was wrong and hurtful to the church. The problem was that when the temple guards went, they were so impressed and so convicted that they left Jesus to preach. When they came back, the Sanhedrinists were very upset, and they said, "Are you deceived like the rest of the masses? Has anyone from the Sanhedrin considered this situation and come to the same conclusion as you temple guards?" Well, this was just a little too much for Nicodemus, who was under conviction. While he wasn't quite ready to come out totally on the side of Jesus, he did speak up for due process, and he said, "Does our law judge a man without first hearing him?" Well, of course, that first hearing was not preaching. It was reference to judicial process. You see, friends, everyone does seem right until you examine it properly. And at the root of proper decision-making is proper dialogue, an investigation of facts. It would be sad if in the history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we somehow stumbled on due process, and the record books recorded bad decisions based on bad process. Some have said, why are we focusing so much on the process and not on what's been said? That's because we haven't all interpreted what's been said exactly the same way. And we haven't all agreed on the legitimacy of what's been said. So perhaps examining the facts and considering the motivations and considering an opportunity at redemption and clarification would be a proper step in the process of dealing with an ordained minister and a local elder. May God help us all to understand what habeas corpus means when it comes to the confining of rights and the restrictions of liberties, including preaching. God be with you all, and I hope you pray about what I've said.